Hi, my name is Andrew Tessier. I'm the brewmaster here at Swans. I've been working here for 6 years. I've been brewing since I was 17 years old, so over 15 years. Started brewing as a hobby of mine when I was in high school. That I really got into quite intensely. I had a little bit of a mad brewer's disease, I suppose, making beer from scratch. I also joined a homebrew club that was local called the Raging Drainies. I was really intrigued with the process of making beer. Also, the end product was quite fun to share with my friends. So I started getting into brewing after high school and working in local breweries, Victoria, Vancouver, and in Halifax. My brewing travels, I've returned to Victoria, and now I work at Swans making beer. We're hanging out here in the brew house of the brewery right now. This is where all the raw ingredients are processed to make wort. And wort is what is fermented to make beer. In order to make wort, we need barley. This starts in the mash tun, where the barley is milled, mixed with hot water. The starches are broken down into simple sugars, and this liquid is drained off and collected into the kettle. This is our sweet wort, full of sugars. At this point, after the kettle fills, we're going to add hops and boil the hops in the wort for about an hour and a half. This is where beer gets its bitterness from. Comes from hops, or a little flower that grows on a vine, adding a lot of bitterness, flavor, and aroma to the wort. After about 90 minutes of boiling in the brew kettle, the wort is pumped into the whirlpool tank, where more hops can be added to add more hop flavor and aroma. This will take place over about 30 minutes. All the hops and the solids will settle to the bottom. And the next step is chilling this wort down so we can pitch our yeast and ferment it to make beer. And this wort will be pumped through the whirlpool, or from the whirlpool tank through the heat exchanger, and come out into our fermentation room at about room temperature or colder, depending on what type of beer is being made. Yeast can be pitched, and then we'll have fermentation take place about 12 hours later. So we'll go into the fermentation room and take a peek at that. This is our fermentation room at Swans Butterfield's Brewery. We talked about producing wort, bittering the wort with hops. Once we chill this wort down, we fill the fermenter with this chilled, bittered wort, and we inject yeast and oxygen in line. The tank will fill. Usually about 12 hours later, we'll get a maximum yeast growth. Yeast will grow up to an ideal population. We'll start to ferment the sugars that we produce in the brew house. But during fermentation, it's really active. We can see inside this fermenter, in the glass, there'll be a lot of movement, a lot of froth being produced. We have a dense head on top of our fermentation, a lot of movement. This will take place for about 4 or 5 days, up to 2 weeks, depending on what type of beer is being produced. We produce ales and lagers here at Swans. The difference between an ale and a lager is the temperature it's fermented at. A lager is fermented cold and employs a yeast that can ferment at a cold temperature, and an ale is fermented warm and use an ale yeast that suits warmer temperature fermentation. So we'll have different fermentations lasting different durations of time. Most beers will ferment out in about 4 or 5 days. And then after this fermentation is complete, the tank is bunged, and we'll have a natural carbonation take place. The last remaining sugar will naturally carbonate the beer when the tank is sealed. This tank has pressure on it. We have natural carbonation taking place. And the beer will be chilled in this tank, yeast will settle at the bottom, and the next step is transferring it to our cellar room. Hi, here we are at the main cellar at Swans Brewery. After fermentation is complete, we've carbonated our beer and we've chilled it in the fermenters. We have finished beer, but it's green, and we need to condition it to put it in shape for consumption. So what we'll do is we'll transfer the beer from the fermentation room into our main cellar, into one of these tanks. We'll seal up the tank and we'll let it condition, usually 2, 3, 4 weeks. For our regular ales, we'll do the trick. Some of our stronger beers we'll let condition for up to 6 months, depending on what type of beer is being produced. Once the beer is clarified naturally, the beer here at Swans isn't filtered, it's just allowed to settle. Over time the beer will drop bright. Once it's had enough conditioning time, it'll be tapped and served to the bar. So you come into Swans, you have a beer in our pub, served right out of one of these tanks, under the building, to the bar, fresh, local beer.